What's up, YouTube? Welcome to the Counting Wisdom podcast. Thanks so much for joining on this particular day for this podcast. Today is April 10th, 2024. And, a few things that are, I think, important to talk about is that, I don't think the end of the world has to be a scary thing just because technically it's not full on the end of the world. And so I want to talk a little bit about that. I wanted to talk a little bit about end times anger, just because I think, many people today are more irritated because of the whole end times things going on. When you talk about people entering into heaven or hell, I think it can really upset someone to the point of very heightened anger, to the point of, being in danger in some way. And so that's something to keep in mind for those of us as Christians who are sharing the gospel or talking about end times or talking about this type of topic. I think it's important to remember that, even though, I think we are still mandated. It's one of the things that God wants us to do is, sort of share our faith in different ways and be light and salt in the world. But still, that can produce stress in people. And I think definitely our goal is not to stress people out. I think definitely, the Bible talks about sometimes using fear to motivate people, because I think life can be scary sometimes when talking about going to heaven or hell. And so that's understandable. But also, I just think that, it's important to remember that, people can be a little bit agitated because of, the end time sign. Even people who sort of deny that end times are happening, I think deep down, some people still think about it, and so even though they may deny it or may never talk about it, I think it still affects people. They know something is going on in the world. And so that's something that I think, we should really remember is that, just using caution, using wisdom and sharing about end times. And the Bible talks about only certain types of people that we should use fear with. And you can read about that in the book of Jude. And so anyway, one thing I think that we can note during the end times is that, it's not full on the end of the world for those that have faith in Jesus Christ. Sometimes we talk about the end of the world, and really people are just going to their eternal destiny, heaven or hell. And so it's not like people cease to exist, even though there is teaching that people do cease to exist. But we should really talk about it from the standpoint of going to heaven or hell. And then also just, I think some of the tribulation events can be, sort of cataclysmic in that way where, people can, be concerned about that. I think even unbelievers can sometimes be concerned about, different things in life, obviously. And so that's what I wanted to say in regards to, sort of anger and end times fear. One thing to note is that, God is going to take care of us. God loves us. God, can love you more if you put your faith in Jesus Christ. I think that's one way to look at it, is that, if you don't have faith in Jesus Christ, God has already appointed certain things to happen for those that don't believe. Now, if you're obviously listening to this message, then I think you should really investigate having faith in Jesus Christ. I think you should really investigate the claim of eternity in heaven or hell. And do yourself some research, do yourself some good in that matter. But for those of us who do believe, I think that, we shouldn't doubt, what God is capable of or going to do in regards to revelation, in regards to, the end time signs and different things like that. So, end times comfort. Outside of, preaching on hell and, tribulation, I think we need to really harp on comforting one another from the standpoint of the good things that God is doing in Revelation. God is righting all the wrongs. God is bringing us into a new world. God is doing so much for us, and he already has done a lot, as far as Jesus going to the cross, being raised from the dead, as far as, God creating the universe, God creating us. Even though we can sometimes have a bad perspective on life where we are sort of having a bad time here or there, and so we're like, oh man, I need to see something better than this. Well, we will. And so that's one thing to note. And sorry, I'm kind of tired and hungry right now, and so that's why I can be sounding a little bit monotone, just because I'm getting close to my lunch break at work, and so I know I probably need to eat something. But anyway, one of the things that I think we need to do is sort of keep our head up in regards to, the end times. I think that it's so easy to, have more of a depressed type of outlook, where we are so caught up in maybe, things happening in the tribulation, things happening, as far as the end time signs are concerned. And we can sort of, have a depressed look because we're focused on the wrong side of Revelation. We're focused on the wrong side of end times, where we're like, oh, God's going to pour out his judgment, and, we're stressed, there's cataclysmic things happening to our life. But knowing that, heaven is ahead of us, knowing that, a good time is ahead of us, a great time, there's probably not a word to really wrap it all up into just one word. Remember how Paul said he heard things, that were too great for a man to speak about when he was, raptured to the third heaven, or he heard of someone raptured to the third heaven. And he says that. And so there are great things in heaven that even the words that are spoken in heaven are too great for this side of heaven. And so we know that everything that we're going to be doing, I think, is going to be amazing. Now, also, we're going to see God. One of the things that I was noticing in a study of Revelation was that in Revelation, towards the end of the book, it says that God's home is now with man, and he will dwell with us. And so that tells me that, that brings understanding about how we don't see God now because of what happened in the garden with Adam and Eve. And so it tells us that we are supposed to be dwelling with God, and that he has plans for us to dwell with him. And that's how it should be. We should be, thinking about living with God and seeing God. Not only seeing God, but imagine just the teaching that we will receive, the knowledge, the understanding, many of the questions that we can have about life. I believe are going to be answered. Maybe not every single question right off the bat, but I think over time, many of, especially the hard questions that we can sometimes wonder about, I highly doubt that we're just going to go through all of eternity and not know more about a certain question. Like, where did God come from? He came from nowhere, but questions that we can sometimes scratch our head about, we're going to know more about. Sometimes I notice that when I can think about some of those questions on this side of heaven, I think it can really get me flustered. I think it can really get me sort of, not knowing, doubting so much. And so, no, we shouldn't doubt. We should really look forward to that time in heaven. And so anyway, I will probably wrap around and do another podcast, hopefully later today. But this is the one that I can do for this time of the day. And so thanks so much for checking it out. I can harp on this particular topic towards later in a later video, hopefully. And so thanks so much for checking it out, and I will talk to you on the next one. See ya.